when in this particular area, and I won't even just say in this country, even globally, because many technologies are still evolving, and we are playing a large part in getting that. It's a pioneering activity in many ways than one. Yeah. Now, Sreepriya, you need to tell us when to, and you're the one who's.
Yes, just 2 minutes more and then we begin.
Yeah, okay. In fact, I met Youthika madam first time in the IBMA meeting. That was July or August last year.
You were there?
Yeah, I was there. Diksha and I, both of us were there.
Okay. You're on mute.
Sorry, don't mistake me, but then there are different views all of us carry, and especially when it comes to government officials, we do not know. We all have a very interesting biased opinions many times, and don't mistake me again for saying it. And thanks to people like you who kind of shatter those opinions and say, like, wow, yes, this is also a way somebody can be. So really.
So that is a requirement. If we want to have some kind of change in the system, then first we need to change our own mentality, our own way of doing the work, or even looking at a certain aspect which is required for the nation. So how to take further, how to carry further all the requirements. So for that, this change is very like it's a must to have.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm also looking forward. Unfortunately, I'll have to just right after my 5 minutes. I'll have to leave from this meeting, but I'm sure, and if possible, the records of this meeting or any kind of monetization is happening here, then kindly share with me, because I really want to have a look on what kind of discussions are going on. Because these discussions are very important for me, sir, because we are in the developing phase right now. And as you all know, we are developing the portal. We are still making some kind of points which we want to have some kind of amendments in the legal framework. So that is why.
Is it only me or we lost Youthika completely? Yuthika seems to have been.
Yeah, I think she may have a connection issue.
Yeah, looks like that.
Somebody is muting me.
Hello?
Hanji.
Yes. Yeah, I think we have her on camera back again. So let's begin. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. We are on the penultimate episode of season 2 of Karo Sambhav's webinar series. And this episode specially is going to discuss about the challenges that we face in lithium-ion battery recycling and what are the possible solutions that can be done to make India more circular. So thank you once again to all the panelists for joining before time. It's actually a great pleasure to have you all before and also have a discussion before this. And today, Mani from Karo Sambhav, he is the Vice President of Karo Sambhav. He is joining us and co-hosting the webinar with me. Thank you so much, Mani. And I think I would, without any further delay, I would hand it over to you to introduce Ms. Youthika for the keynote address. Over to you, Mani.
Thank you, Sreepriya, and thank you for organizing this, and thank you for continuing to hold these webinars, which is absolutely important as we were just speaking among ourselves here. Vikrant has just joined, I guess. Vikrant, your hand is up. Any reason?
Yeah, we're just giving him the access. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Hello, Vikrant. Thanks for joining. So,
Thank you so much for welcoming. Thank you so much, everyone.
yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining. Youthika ji, thank you very much once again, and formally as the session starts now. And it's a great pleasure to have you here as the keynote person for today's webinar. The way the webinar is planned today is that we have your keynote address, and then beyond that, for about an hour, we have a panel discussing lithium-ion batteries and the recycling methodologies, how we are going about that in India, and what are the different challenges that we are facing, maybe, and what are the potential solutions for today and later for the future. So that's broadly the subject. I'm not sure within the hour we will be able to thrash out the vast ocean that is there of the batteries, especially the lithium ion. But at least we hope to touch upon a few points and kind of remind ourselves, at least the group of people that are on the panel will try to remind each other of what needs to be worked upon. So, yeah, Youthika ji here to the rest of the people that have joined the call today to the webinar. We have more than 64 people, and I'm expecting the numbers to cross about 100 very soon. So typically, that's kind of numbers that we have. And Youthika ji doesn't need any introduction to the people that are on the call. Most of the people on the call would be knowing you. But yet, she is with this Central Pollution Control Board, the CPCB, as we all fondly know the organization as. And she has been, I should say, in my, to the extent that I know, she has been the face of this organization in all public forums, more or less, for the battery management, battery waste management completely. So I happen to see her, meet her in an event about a few months back, last July, if I'm right. And I was actually enthralled to see somebody who, from the government side, has the knowledge, has the ability. And let me tell you all that that event was being hosted and attended by CEOs of some of the largest companies in the country. And to see a person hold their own and be completely present over there and be able to handle the kind of points that were being made over there, that was really, really admirable, and hats off to you. And beyond that, the other thing that I keep talking about to anybody who I keep talking about is the evening 4 o'clock virtual calls that are happening these days. It's a very rare thing for the implementation of a very difficult program by the government, which is the EPR, and especially on the batteries. How the implementation is having its own major challenges, yet to keep that line open with all the stakeholders to take their inputs, to work their inputs, help solve the problems, and in many cases solve the problems then and there. Extremely fantastic. It's a practically a war room operating every hour, every day, and it doesn't even stop over the weekends. So I can only imagine. I'm just giving these two instances, which I have personally experienced and seen. And what tells me is beyond this, whatever happens, I'm sure the person is actually putting in a lot of time, effort, and blood and sweat into it to make this entire program successful. So we are, in fact, I mean, I should also point out that the knowledge that she's able to bring onto the table when these interactions happen is again something which is fantastic. We learn every time we listen to her. So it's a pleasure, it's our luck, and that she has agreed to be here. It was very interesting when we invited her. We sent the mail. She said, "Yeah, I'll join," all that. But then it was like, is she there? Is she not there? And then 2 days back, one of our team members gets a call saying that this is the call. Are we having the webinar? This is the time I will be joining. She cleanly confirmed it, and I'm like, how did you even do that? Because that was really surprising. And then again, there's a confirmation that comes to us. So thank you very much, Youthika ji, for agreeing to join us and being with us. And I wouldn't carry any further. I would hand the mic over to you. All yours. For some reason, I'm not able to hear you. Is my audio short?
No, even I'm not able to hear.
Am I audible now?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank God. Sir, I mean, thank you is a very small word. I mean, what should I say? But those words, your statements, your line are, it's a kind of, you made my day. There is nothing like, I'm not the key person in this area. You people are the key person for this area. There is a lot of information or a lot of knowledge to be learned at my level. We have just entered in this area. We are nowhere. You people are the face of our country. Uh, without without such population, we can't run the show. First of all, so I never acknowledge this is a keynote person who is going to deliver some keynote address to address such issue. We are if we know about the subject completely, then these discussions are not would been happening, and we are not calling people every day, and we are not learning every day. These daily VCs, what we are conducting, we are still trying to figure out what is lacking, what is the gap, what is the issue, so that we will improvise on our level, and we will be able to produce a system which is acceptable to the public, which is implementable by the stakeholders, so that we can actually have a showcase with us, and we can say that okay, now this system is running and it is operational in all aspects. So first of all, a very big thank you, sir, for giving me such an honor, and I am very happy to share such platforms and having such technical discussions. I am my personal nature is, when I'm in working for a specific subject or specific area, then I need to know everything about the area. Then only I'll be able to speak something. Okay, with the partial knowledge, I'll not be able to handle people, the industries and their challenges. So that is why I am always keen to discuss this area, this all these technical discussions. So given me this opportunity to speak on this area where we are going to talk about the battery waste management. What is the ecosystem which is required? Recently, Ministry of Environment notified the battery waste management rules. Earlier, waste word was not there at all. So we were all confused. Even I was handling this batteries, and I was, while compiling the annual reports, I used to be in some kind of confusion that I am compiling the batteries data, or are we bothered about the battery waste? We are not getting it. So, and immediately we have this battery waste management rules. So this was a shift for the ministry, for CPCB also, for state boards also. We have so much of clarity now. What do we want from the battery industry? And battery is not only a battery. Okay, this always this particular area supports the other area which is related to, if we are talking about metals and all. So globally it is in demand. So if we are able to manage the battery waste properly, and if we are able to recycle it properly, then we have good products in our hand. So that is why this particular whole area, you know it better, sir, why it is important, because it has got some value. Okay, now coming back to the rules which are notified under EPA Act. So what Environment Protection Act talks about, it talks about all the aspects which are related to environment, which the provisions which we need to follow to take care of our environment. If one industry is there, it is operational in nature, then how the industry should perform, what all standards the industry should follow, these and all. So battery waste management rules, talking about the technical standards of a recycler for a manufacturer, for say the transportation and collection of battery, and parallelly we are talking about the extended producer responsibility. So these two very important tool of this whole battery waste management rules are very important to for the authorities, so that we got to know each and every detail about the battery. If it is a new battery, then also we want to know about when it was produced, when it was, and if it is a waste battery, then also we want to have entire cycle of that used or waste battery, when it was produced and when it is going to be handed over to a recyclers or refurbisher for it, for that matter. So that is why EPR is important. So the concept of EPR is nothing just to have a track of a battery. Okay. And if we are able to track a battery, then we can say then the end products, which are the value for any kind of industries, for the country, the end products are very important. Then we'll be able to control or have a good figures in the production of those end products. And by the meaning of end products, I'm sure you must be knowing this, that we are talking about metals, precious metals and all. So, and now the third aspect is circular economy, because we are living in an area where everyone is talking about the circular economy. So even fortunately, I will not say unfortunately, I am also looking after the area which is related to the biomedical waste management. So there also, see, it's a very highly infectious waste, but in that area also we are talking about the circular economy. And out of by following a good management practices for biomedical waste, we can actually able to produce plastic waste out of that biomedical waste, which is directly going for recycling and which is ensuring the circular economy. So like that, in that area we are working. So that is why we need to know everything about whether it is a waste, whether it is a life cycle of that waste, how one product is going to be a waste, when it is going to be a waste. So everything in battery waste management, entire cycle of every type of battery, whether it is a kind of battery, whether we are talking about the chemical composition of the battery. So we have tried to give in the life cycle. 5 साल में खत्म होगा, 6 साल में होगा, in the span of 10 years. So this battery waste management rules notified in August 2022, and the first, because today's agenda is more specific for the lithium ion batteries. So earlier it was not there. So lithium ion batteries were there in the market, everywhere these batteries were there, but we didn't have any idea about what to do with these type of batteries. ये करना क्या है, कहाँ पे फेंकना है, कहाँ से उठाना है, there was nothing, no idea. But yes, with these rules, we are daily, practicing. In fact, we are working on the technical guidelines also. What kind of infrastructure is required for recycling, for refurbishing, even for the manufacturing, because we know that new demand is coming for the battery storage for our country. So in that area, this particularly lithium ion batteries are playing very important part in that area also. So we know what lithium ion battery, they also comes under the purview of battery waste management. And then the next, coming back to the applicability of the rules. Okay, so there are only two players, two types of stakeholders. One is producer and another is recycler. Intermediate, we have, sub side mein ho gaya. So the producer who is manufacturing, who is importing the battery, and recycler who is recycling the battery. So Mr. Gaurav would agree with me that there is a lot of things happening with the recyclers. Who is a recycler? What role needs to be given to the recyclers? How he will support the entire ecosystem of EPR. So these two players are very important. And if we do not have producers, we can't run the recyclers. And if we do not have recyclers, we can't implement the EPR system. So both the entities are very important in nature for us and for each other, right? So the one is rule, applicability of the rule, and the third part is EPR. So for EPR, just to give an update to you all, I'm sure you must be aware of that fact already, but still that CPCB has given a specific role in the rule. So CPCB is responsible for entire implementation of EPR. We need to produce the online system. We need to show the transactions of EPR, and we need to check the compliance as well. So portal, yes, we have the portal. It is running. If I share the data, then more than 2,000 producers we have registered already. Because recyclers, it is coming up, and recyclers are, they are still struggling with this formality of getting registered and then generation of their EPR credits. So slowly they're also coming up on the portal, but portal is live. So as far as portal part is related, we do have some glitches. Daily we are conducting this VC so that the at least first step of getting everyone on board is complete in nature. There should not be any kind of glitch in that, whether it is related to portal or whether it is any technical glitch. Somebody is not understanding at all that what is the requirement and how I should proceed further. So that is one. And another part is we have also started this transaction of EPR credits. So if you go to the battery EPR portal, you will see the status of registration, and you would also see the status of EPR credits, because we have categorized the entire battery into some key battery materials. So there are 10, 11 key battery materials, and for which individual material we are asking people to generate their EPR credits. Credits, it's nothing. It's is equal to the battery you are recycling, the products you are recovering is equal to that much amount of EPR credit. It's a very simple logic. No science, hi-fi science is there. So it's a very simple process. All we need that producers are registered. They are getting their targets in the form of EPR obligations, and recyclers are there. They need to produce the EPR credits, so that with the help of our portal, producers will be able to fulfill their obligations. And not only the obligations, we have also given one responsibility to the producers to reuse the recovered material in the form of the end products. So that is also a challenge for the producer. So slowly, the entire battery waste management rules is a very beautiful document. If we read very thoroughly, even one single line, mujhe 10 baar padhna padta hai to understand what is the logic behind that. Okay, so if we want to have a good, we can say, system for our country for battery waste management, then we need to understand what is the principle behind, what is the principle of these rules, and what actually do we want. We don't want only waste management hai, NOC lena hai, authorization lena hai, state board jana, no. And with the help of this portal, everything is very crystal clear. I'm sure some thoda 10-20% jo rehta hai wo rehta hai, but other than that, everything is on my screen. I can see what people are doing, how they are doing, and what all challenges they are facing. So this is it, sir. This is all about the overall battery waste management. And I am here. My number is, everyone has my number, my office number, my team's contact number, and we are ready to help in any form. In fact, some people, my another Gaurav ji would laugh again. His first question was, how are you here? How are you going to manage? So this is it from my side, sir. And thank you for having me here once again. And I'm sorry, but I'll have to take your leave from this discussion. But after that, if somebody dropping me any email, he can call me, he can drop me email, he can WhatsApp me. Any mode of communication is there. I'm available, and any help would be, I'll be happy to help. For this forum. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Youthika ji. And yes, you've always been happy to help. You've always been helping. So I don't think there's any doubt about it. And yes, the portal is there. It is live. And I guess it's among the other, if I'll have to look at the different way streams, the battery portal is up and running. We're able to see credits, etc. Only thing is that we are just waiting to see as much credits as one would want to see. Abhi tak to it is still, I think it's still to happen. The credits will slowly show up But in the next few weeks, as long as it happens in the next few weeks, all of us are going to be very happy. That's what is the situation, right? So with Gaurav, Vikrant, and Mr. Singha, any quick thing that you might want to pop up to Youthika ji, or I guess she's running urgently. Anything?
She's always very, very kind and very gracious to listen to us and our constant complaints and nagging. Look, we cannot please everybody. We understand how difficult her job is. But the good thing is that, as you said, that she's always open. She's always welcoming towards our suggestions and our requests. So we thank you for that.
Thank you. I guess somebody, Mr. Singh.
No, I'm fine. I'll not take her time. Yeah, I mean, the entire perspective given by Madam was extremely helpful, and yeah, that's all from me.
Thank you, sir. And still, if you feel, after this discussion, I'm sure some points would come up related to the portal, especially. So I'm there, and kuch bhi hota hai, we are ready to help, sir.
So thank you, Youthika ji. I just wanted to highlight that while we have Mr. Singha from Deloitte, and of course, Vikrant and Gaurav from the recycling side. Among the people who have joined, we have a lot of team members from our producer organizations too, because they are our clients, and they have also joined us. So they've been hearing you speak, as well as now, hopefully, they'll be along with us through the discussion that we will be having just after now. That's the way it is. So thank you very much. Much appreciate you taking the time out and sharing your views. And we hope to interact with you, continue to interact with you, and see you succeed as we go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care. Yes, Sreepriya.
Yes, so now after this keynote address, we would be moving on to the panel discussion. So I would like to invite Ms. Rhythm Aggarwal. She's joined us. She's Assistant Environment Engineer at Chandigarh Pollution Control Committee. And then we already have Mr. Gaurav here with us. He also spoke. So I'll just add him to the spotlight so that all of us can see. Then we have Mr. Vikrant Singh from BatX, and then we have Mr. Himadri Singha from Deloitte. I think we have a power-packed panel to have a discussion today. So over to you, Mani, and I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sreepriya, for bringing this group together. And once again, warm welcome to all of you. Gaurav, Vikrant, Mr. Singha, and Ms. Aggarwal. Thank you very much again for joining us. Basically, the objective was to talk about lithium-ion, what this battery has been. We've been knowingly or unknowingly playing around with it for more than 20 plus years, 20, 30 years maybe, since the time the original Nokia phones started invading our lives way back in the late 90s, I should say. And as a Nokia employee myself for a fairly long time, I've always been proud of those phones and what they brought to us and where they have brought us now. But then in the process, they brought also the lithium-ion batteries. So I guess I will not go there into the phones, but our objective is to talk about the batteries today. But just so that to keep keeping the heterogeneous nature of the people who are on the webinar, I would like to maybe start off talking about the basic lithium-ion battery itself. There are so many different chemistries and multiple things that are being talked about. What is it? What is it different from the typical other batteries that we use at home with the pen torch cells, as we put it on? So maybe I will just jump to Vikrant for that matter. Just kind of get the team, the group of people, the attendees, the audience here, to have a sense of what is this, what does it have, what are maybe the different chemistries. I know, Vikrant, I didn't kind of prime you for this earlier, but I'm sure you can help us with some of those inputs from your side. Go ahead, Vikrant.
No,
Vikrant, sorry.
It's always okay. I mean, I want to tell you the story of lithium-ion battery, how it is being started. So it's 2 minutes I will take. So initially you have seen the tape recorders where you have a films, and Sony was the first company to launch lithium-ion battery. You know the story because at that time the tape recorders were deploying, right? I mean the chipsets and the memory cards and all the hard disk kind of developments were happening. So there were large plants which were being idle because the production of these films, the plant which they have made huge capex, was not worth at particular time. So it was in 1991. So one person from, so Sony development, so they have seen that the lithium and battery development is happening on thin films. So they have taken the technology from lab scale and they have tried onto the same machinery. So they have utilized the tape recorders, the film one technology to utilize to manufacture cell. So that's how the evolution of lithium and battery was happened in 1991. And then initially it came to maybe small devices, and then it came to Nokia kind of phones. Initially the batteries was like you have to change the battery every 5 days, 6 days, like nickel. Then the concept came that this is the rechargeable battery can be also recharged, and that has shaped the complete industry of, you can say, the electric or electronic component mobility. The entire system is being changed, even in terms of the things which can be mobile, which was stationary. Now you can take the things with your own hands, right? So building of this lithium-ion battery started from thin films. So inside a battery, you have three major components. One is cathode, which is a thin film coated with lithium and other materials. Then there is a plastic in between that, and there is the anode, which is coated with graphite generally. So, and the thickness of this is you can exactly imagine like that tape recorder film, and you are winding that film into a kind of battery, right? So that's something, the structure which is being inside the batteries. Now, if you want to see the difference between the battery which are in your mobile phones and the battery which is in your car, so typically the internal structure is same for all kind of batteries. The working principle. But then there is a difference in architecture of batteries. What you do is once you charge the batteries, there are a lot of ions, billions of ions coming together, going to different places. Again, you are discharging the ions coming from with the same place. That's how happening in all kinds of batteries. Now the difference is the battery which are in your phones, the chemistry is very different. The current and other applications is very different. And the battery sizing is small. So the batteries are coming with different physical cell form factors like cylindrical battery, which are in your laptops. Majorly there are cylindrical battery, but inside the structure is same. For example, that roll, you can roll in prismatic form also, like cylindrical form also. You can roll that in rectangular form also. So based on the requirement, the battery is being developed, but inside the structure is majorly same. But now because development what's happening, initially the cobalt content batteries were maximum. If you see the Nokia and Motorola batteries, all the batteries were based on cobalt content. There was no nickel, there was no manganese into it. And then because of the demand, the cost of cobalt was increasing at a particular time. Then everyone realized we have to do something. They infused the lower pricing materials like nickel and manganese to suffice that demand into these batteries. So it is only changement into the materials. Second point which I want to highlight, that why lithium-ion batteries called lithium-ion batteries. Lithium battery contains only 1% of lithium inside the batteries. Only 1%. But again, we are saying as a lithium-ion battery because lithium-ion takes the function, it takes the part in creating an ions inside and outside of the cathode to anode. That's why we are calling as a lithium-ion battery for the lithium-ion batteries. So according to me, the lithium batteries are same. It depends on structure, the utility, and the materials percentage change in every kind of battery based on the manufacturer, based on the utility. So that's all about the lithium-ion batteries in terms of they are a thin films role, kind of capacitor role in a different way. That's it.
Thanks, Vikrant. Thanks for that. And just to kind of continue that question a little bit with you. Now, typically, the lithium-ion batteries that we use in our daily life, whether it is the phones, etc., what's the kind of life that you would say these will have?
So, based on cycles. So, for example, when you discharge your battery, it is counted at one cycle. Okay. So what we do is typically in mobile phone batteries, you will see 1,000 cycles to 1,200 cycles is being there in your mobile phone batteries. That means you can discharge your batteries to 1,000 times. So that is being estimated, and then the manufacturers convert in times of, you can say, the time. So you can say 3 years, 2 to 3 years is the life cycle for mobile phone batteries or the stationary applications, which is typically 1,200 life cycles is being counted. Second application is that the batteries are also containing a term which is called state of health. So in your mobile phone, especially iPhone users, if you go into the battery, inside your phone, it will also tell you how much battery deterioration is being happened inside the mobile phone. So you will see everyone phone battery, it will show SOH. So I mean that is something which is important to monitor it, and life cycle is being defined. For example, some of the years life cycle of 8 years, for example, 20,000 cycles. Compared to mobile phones, it's maybe 10 times more. So it depends on the architecture and the economics behind it. I mean, the battery life cycle can given to 20 years also, but the cost of that battery will be maybe 20x. So which is not being feasible. So at the moment, I mean, the life cycle ranges from 1,000 cycles to 20,000 cycles based on chemistry like LFP battery, NMC battery, LCO battery. These are the chemistries or types of the batteries. And based on that, the life cycle is being defined based on the utility.
Thank you very much again for that, Vikram. I just want to jump to Mr. Singha here. In your recent paper that you co-authored, you talked about what can potentially be done to these batteries. So we just heard about what type of batteries these are and what they do, and what can and how long their life is. So what happens to them when their life is coming to an end and maybe actually has ended? And I'm just not restricting to the phones, batteries, or ELVs. I guess you talked in detail about what can be done. I would want you to talk about how you see that and what are the potential ways in which they can be taken forward.
Right. So as Vikrant already explained that all these batteries have different kind of chemistries, right? So and they have different kind of material also within these batteries. So it includes nickel, it includes lithium, it includes cobalt, it includes cobalt, and many other materials, right? And all these materials, at least some of them are kind of rare earth material, right? So they have limited supply. I mean, globally, the reserve is also limited. Also, there is geopolitics involved in the supply chain of all these batteries, right? So it's important to recycle all those batteries. So once my batteries come to the end of life, right? So it may not be used for the specific utilities, but uh, but at least what can be done is that if we can recycle those batteries and can recover those uh, critical minerals, what we say, those can be used for producing new batteries. Now, I mean, till now, if you see that in the context of lithium-ion battery, the overall penetration has been limited, right? But going forward with the evolutions of electric vehicles and also, I mean, increased adoptions of consumer electronics, the actual supply of batteries reaching to end of life would be multiplied, right? So there is an imminent need that these batteries should be recycled and recover those critical minerals which can be used for producing new batteries again, right? So that's the basically genesis behind the battery recycling. And also, obviously, disposal is an issue, right? So why should disposal I mean, that will also come up with environmental and health hazards, right? So it's always better to recover those materials and use commercially for producing new batteries. Now, so with this context, if I come to some of the important aspects of battery recycling, so one is definitely what I should say is that maintaining the safety or the health hazards, curbing the health hazards. That's very very important. we have a kind of battery recycling industry in the country which is dealing with the consumer goods mainly, but till now it's dominated by the unorganized sectors, right? So there has been huge supply of end of life batteries from the consumer electronics segment, and in the last few years only we have seen that there has been organized recycling players coming into the market, but before that it was entirely unorganized. Until now, also, majority of these consumer electronics are being handled by the unorganized sectors. So going forward, so probably I feel that uh, major focus should be on maintaining the risks associated with the health hazards and the human safety, and also to maintain the qualities, right? So whether we are recovering the critical minerals to the extent possible, which we call is that the recovery efficiency. Whether the recovery efficiency is significant, so that if it's whether it's commercially viable or not. So that these are the two major areas probably that would drive the recycling industry going forward. Yeah, so I'll take a pause. So if you have any further questions, follow-up questions, I can answer to that. You're mute, sir.
My apologies. So yes, thank you for that. You were talking about the second life,
Right.
right? So would you want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so second life, so it would be it may have multiple applications, right? So for example, recently we have seen that there has been at least it's in the plan is that EV stations will have the second life batteries, right? So for example, electric vehicle purpose, you cannot use you cannot use the battery after a certain degradation, right? First, and then can be used for multiple other applications. So it can be your grid scale storage also. It can be your decentralization's use of decentralizing use of battery in the EV charging stations. Those also can be used in the telecom towers also. So for all applications, you cannot use the second life of battery, but there are specific applications where you can still have where you can still use the second life of battery. The which a degraded battery that can be used.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, when I read about it, and I was reading your paper and looking at the second life, so we always talk about recycling, we talk about refurbishment, and I guess your paper was the first time I was reading it as second life. Okay, and to me, it sounded typically a very Indian way of looking at it, karma, life again after death, and all those things. Like a second life. It was very interesting to see the usage. But yes, I guess one of the key things in our culture is not to let anything go without making sure that we have kind of used it to the maximum. We always try to extract the maximum value, and I don't see that in any demeaning way. I'm saying it in a way that yes, these resources, as you rightly pointed out, on this earth are very, very precious. They are very limited, and it is not possible that we kind of keep extracting the minerals from the earth and keep using them on and on. I think it is extremely important for us to make sure that we take it out, recycle them, extract the metals, and reuse them in the original form to the original and the key meaning of the material circularity. Now, to get the material back, I guess once the batteries have gone in, and to get the materials back, all of us have been using it. It's all over the place. You did refer to the unorganized sector, which has been the key player in this area. And how do we do that? How do we get them? What is the supply chain? How does it come to us? How does it come back for recycling? And what are the opportunities to recycle? I just go over to Gaurav. Gaurav, help us understand how this entire supply chain works, and how do we kind of move it from an unorganized sector to an organized, and why? I mean, I know all of us are in this business to make sure that this happens, to make sure that there are the challenges that are there are minimized or eliminated. But I would really like to elucidate it for this audience here. Please go ahead, Gaurav.
Thank you for having me at this webinar today, Mani. Thank you very much. So I'll start by saying that, well, we all know most of the lithium-ion batteries today being generated comes from personal devices, and those batteries are in the informal sector predominantly. So all of us have to work with the informal sector today. Our reliance dependence is with them. We try to formalize that. We try and involve them or try to make them come into the formal purview. Some of them are willing, some of them are not willing. It's a question of habit, it's a question of culture. So it's not very easy. But at the same time, I think that there are e-waste aggregators who are taking initiative in this. Of course, Karo Sambhav being one of them. We work with you very closely on this. It has its challenges. We getting material through reliable sources, moving it in a safe manner to authorized recyclers such as ourselves at LICO. It has several challenges. Of course, we don't have many guidelines defined yet. We are still very early in this recycling journey in our country. Whether it's safe transportation, whether it's recycling guidelines. So it's still early days, but I think, everybody's intention is to move towards a more formal, way of collection and dealing with formal players. I think that tipping point comes when we start getting material from OEMs, for recycling or for refurbishment or a second life, as Mr. Singha mentioned. But I think we have some time before we get there. I think in India, we are in one way blessed or lucky that we have dominance of two-wheeler and three-wheeler batteries. So hopefully we will start seeing that material back quicker compared to the West, where the reliance is on four-wheelers and buses, which take 5 to 8 years to come back.
So how do you can you just elaborate on the challenges one would face on this procurement, Gaurav, and especially also talk about how you talked about the West and us here. So the key differences that are there about procurement in the West versus what happens here.
Yeah, look, several challenges when we work with the informal sector. One is, are we getting what we are promised? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So reliability is a problem. Trust. The informal sector does not work with a long-term view in mind, right? Whereas us, as our associations between each other, is always looking at a long-term goal in mind. So are we getting what we're promised? That's the first question. Is there any way to check it? No. On second point is, of course, safe transportation. Are these batteries being dismantled in a safe way? Are they being done by at any kind of ethical standards? Are they being done by minors? There's so many question marks. We all know what kind of processes are adopted by the informal sector, but unfortunately, there's nothing much as a recycler that we can do. Now, from the time that we buy material to the time it gets transported to us, this all falls within the purview of the recycler. The risks are entirely ours. We also must understand that sometimes in the batteries we get, there could be other kinds of batteries. There could be lead acid batteries. There could be nickel cadmium batteries. It's a mix. Sometimes it could be something completely else from a lithium-ion battery that we are essentially paying for. Most importantly, I think if we compare to the West, as we discussed, we have to pay for raw material, whereas in the West, recyclers get paid for recycling. Now, we understand that as a culture, we are not, a, a people that like to pay for things. So to get paid to recycle, so we obviously always expect money. But in the West, the difference is that there are government initiatives or collection centers where one can go and deposit their batteries, etc. And then, hence e-waste collectors would collect it and it would go to recyclers. That system does not exist in India. I think everybody is well versed that we have an informal sector versus the West. But challenges definitely in supply chain, in what we get, how good that quality is, risks, and then of course you have financial risks with dealing with the informal sector, GST compliance, etc., etc.
Yep. In fact, when you're talking about the fact that in our country, we, for that matter, I'm not pointing anybody else, all of us, in me inclusive, we don't even throw out a piece of newspaper. Okay, we kind
Absolutely.
of put it all together, and we are bargaining with the guy who comes home about English newspapers and the local newspapers. How much does he pay for it? So we don't throw out a single thing free of cost. And somebody the other day was pointing out how they remember their grandmothers selling their old clothes for and bartering them for vessels. I'm sure many of us will remember it. At least people who are old enough will remember it, right? So we never have this habit of giving anything. Meaning we don't pay for somebody to take something. We always want to get paid for giving even things that are in tatters. So well, that's the way we are, and I guess that's the challenge that we still face even when it comes to all these the tech equipment and such like that's happening. So I just would for a moment jump across to Ms. Aggarwal from the Chandigarh Pollution Control Committee. We were talking about the lithium-ion procurement and the challenges that are there. And I understand that the committee has been working a lot on the e-waste side, as well as trying to put the same thoughts and processes into doing similar work on the lithium-ion side. So I just wanted to know the kind of work that you've been doing, as well as in terms of the challenges. Have you seen similar challenges? And what are you planning to do with respect to the lithium-ion side? Over to you, Ms. Aggarwal.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So I'll start with lithium-ion batteries. So presently, to be very frank, disposable mechanism with respect to lithium-ion batteries is yet to be established in Chandigarh. First of all, there are no manufacturers, no recyclers, no assemblers with respect to lithium-ion batteries in Chandigarh. And talking about consumer electronics such as phones and laptops, I think the lithium-ion battery associated with these products or any other products, they go back into the system or they go back to the producer as per the EPR compliance during the buyback system. I have not seen batteries along with solid waste collected and domestic hazardous waste collected in Chandigarh. I have not seen batteries on ground. So there are 3 material recovery facilities in Chandigarh where the entire waste of Chandigarh is being collected for secondary, secondary segregation. So at those places also, I have not seen lithium-ion batteries or any other batteries in those places. It's probably because informal sector is being very active. This is the main reason. And moreover, in some of the items, we get the buyback value in them. So that is the second reason. Plus, talking about 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers, these batteries will yet, the end of the life batteries will yet come into the market. They're yet to come. And talking about e-vehicles like 4-wheelers and big buses, then we have another 3-4 years after which they'll come, 8 to 10 years after which they'll come into the end of the life. So I hope till then we'll set up some mechanism of the main problem is identification from the source identification and then collection and transporting it to the recycler. First of all, there are no recyclers in Chandigarh, so we have to make sure that the same is being transported to authorized recyclers of other nearby states.
Sure.
So I think, yeah, doing tie-up with them, identifying them, and no, ground level achieving battery waste management and e-waste management on ground level is a challenge. I think for any UT or any state, till the time the informal sector is active, very much active.
Very true. And with the new battery management rules that have been notified, how well would you think is the awareness of the common population with respect to these rules, and how well do they realize that this is very important? In fact, they are actually hazardous and has to be dealt with accordingly. What is your take on that?
At present, I don't think that much work has been done with respect to awareness in battery waste management rules.
Okay.
So we are facing challenges even in e-waste management awareness sessions. So people have a mindset that if we are disposing of any electronic item, so we should get something. We should get paid for that thing. We should get something in financial terms. So which they are very comfortable with informal sector. And we had worked with many recycling facilities. So they said that they'll be paying half of the price what informal sector pays them. So biggest challenge is on monetary grounds.
True, very true, very true. Thank you. In fact, I just wanted to make a point. Yes, I will be beating my drum a little bit out here. That Karo Sambhav, as you will well know, helps in doing the awareness sessions and both in, across all materials, whether it is e-waste or with respect to batteries. And even in Chandigarh, and by the way, Gaurav, we were talking about the collection mechanisms and collection centers. We do have a collection center in Chandigarh. We have 40 plus collection centers across the country, wherein we welcome people to come and drop in material. Of course, we also have mechanisms to go and collect material, whether it is e-waste, plastics, or even not plastics really, but then batteries, etc., from homes, from RWAs, where we also deliver the awareness as well as collect. So both ways of awareness as well as collection is possible. So, Ms. Aggarwal, we'll be more than happy to help and work with the CPCC to support and make some of these things happen. That will be our pleasure.
Sure. Thank you.
So, thank you. So, going to again to Mr. Singha, a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about. Was again, I'm going back and touching the paper that you co-authored. By the way, if just for the sake of the audience and the others on the panel, Mr. Singha is from Deloitte, and recently they had written a paper on the lithium-ion batteries and recycling and the waste management. So I'm just kind of referring to that paper. It talked about the tax regulations, safety concerns, and also about standardization regulations. So if you kind of touch upon those 3 or 4 points, it will be really great, Mr. Singha.
Right. So on the tax, I think the issue has been resolved. So earlier, actually, when the paper was written at that point of time, there was no clarity on the what to do the tax for the refurbished batteries, right? But later, I think the GST is approximately, I think 18% only, which is in line with the new batteries. So that issue is, I think, resolved. But obviously, there were concerns highlighted related to safety as well as standardizations. Also, I mean, what kind of support that should be provided to the recyclers, right? So, I'm starting from safety. What we believe is that there are two types of challenge, right? The first is associated with the entire supply chain. So as already Mr. Gaurav has highlighted that if we consider the supply chains of the entire battery recycling, right? So it starts from collection, then transportation, then segregations and dismantling, and then your recovery, place, right? And there are safety concerns in each of these part of the value chain, right? So when you dismantle it, how you are dismantling, there are associated health hazards, there are associated hazards related to the fumes and gases that emits from during the dismantling process. And frankly, there is no as such some kind of written guidelines or SOPs associated. And as I said that a significant part of the supply chain is managed by the unorganized sectors, right? And unorganized sector literally doesn't have any kind of SOPs. The large players like BatX and others, probably they have developed their own SOPs and all, right? But if we consider the large chunk of these supply chains, they're exposed to many safety concerns, and probably some kind of guidance, some kind of SOPs, some kind of public awareness. Those are, I mean, extremely crucial till we have an unorganized sector in this battery recycling industry. That's one point. Second point is that still we don't have any kind of guidelines which deals with the fire risks of the lithium-ion batteries, right? I mean, we have guidelines globally available. For example, NFPA. Anyways, there are some European guidelines also. But in India, if you see, we still don't have new guidelines which will help the recyclers both from the organized and unorganized sectors to deal with the battery lithium-ion battery fire risk. So these are some of the aspects we have highlighted in our report while it comes to the safety concerns. Second was on the standardizations part, right? So while I mean it's difficult to standardize the battery chemistry because that will curb innovation, but obviously there are scopes, what I believe, of standardizations in the battery recycling itself, right? That how you are segregating, what should be your dismantling processes, how you should handle the hazardous materials. Those are also very organization specific, but as such, I mean, from the government of India or any kind of formal guidelines, those are still not available, right? CPCB is working on that. Battery waste management rule has laid the ground, but still probably those are something which can be looked at, and I mean, which will also help in developing the overall ecosystem in the battery recycling industry.
Thank you very much again. In fact, you were talking about the safety concerns, especially when you're transporting the batteries. Gaurav referred to it too. And when it comes to lithium-ion. Now, we did talk about the cost, and Mr. Aggarwal was talking about the cost of the whole thing. Nobody's ready to spend the money. Now, moment we talk about safety, moment we start talking about putting in the extra requirements that will take care of the safety, and this, we should remember that lithium-ion is a hazardous material. We don't normally handle it like that. We don't treat it like that. For us, a battery is like any typical everyday battery that we have in our Pentorch or anything. So that's how we deal with this. Now, in the researches that you do with in Deloitte, how do you see the industry, the public reacting to the incremental spend, or which will eventually be costs, when we start putting in all these correct practices, honestly? And I think at this point in time, all of us should admit that it definitely is fully not there. There is a certain organized space where it might happen, but otherwise it doesn't happen. So once all of that comes, and there's going to be additional spend. So how is the public and the industry going to react to these correct methods of doing things from a cost perspective?
Right. So, I mean, Gaurav and Vikrant can correct me, but what I feel is that this kind of, I mean, unavailability of the practices, this kind of practices, this is not because of cost, but more because of awareness, and also the kind of, I mean, I'll focus mostly on awareness, right? That they don't know that what should be the SOP. They don't know that how it should be done, because unorganized sectors, if you see, I mean, you will get thousands of such small kind of, I will not say organizations, but I mean small sects which are involved into this kind of recycling industry. So I may not be the right one to answer that if I mean, implementing this kind of SOPs would impact on the overall cost. But obviously, if we can focus on the awareness part, or let's just some kind of mandate, right? That if you have to, I mean, if you only follow this kind of SOPs, then only you can issue the APR certificate. So that would help in developing the overall culture of maintaining safety, overall culture of maintaining the right SOPs, and which will help in preventing the overall safety hazards and unsafe conditions. I mean, Gaurav and Vikrant can correct. To have adequate safety measures, adequate SOPs, will it impact the overall cost of recycling in any way or not?
Yeah, in fact, I was about to go to Vikrant and ask this similar question, in the sense that Vikrant again is a very avid fan for standardization. And so I always would like to know what kind of standardization he refers to, because it's always a broad term and we need to understand where we are talking about it. And what are your views on that, Vikrant? And again, also touching upon the point that Mr. Singha made, how do you see this impacting the industry as a whole?
See, absolutely, in terms of cost, today, if you see basically this whole market is being dependent on LME commodity market. And the whole mechanism, whether it's a downstream process or the upstream process, building of the batteries or the recycling is directly attached to commodity international, whether it's fast markets or LME, right? And at the backside of it, when we are going to source the materials, definitely they are on the fixed price, or the metals, or maybe the battery pricing are not made changing based on the metal pricing. So that is the biggest problem which is happening at the moment, because volume today, the volume is not that much high that it impacts the whole total, in terms of extraction, or maybe in terms of the material when we export the material, because largely I think the 80% of the India production which we are doing at the moment is exported from the country. And at the backside of it, you have to take the material on cash. That means in terms of you have to pay the money on the time when you are taking the material. So your working capital issues, definitely there is a problem. Second is safety part, which you are saying. Safety part can be only enhanced once the organized sector will take into the picture, because enforceability will only come once the norms will be followed, because only floating the policies is not the only one. It's all about the execution of the part, and execution will be only applicable for the organized sector, which is the OEMs or the producers, right? So I mean, it's right now we are into the phase of, the technology is being in a immature state. Even in today's date, we are not 100% recycling the materials in our country. So it will take some time. It will take 2-3 years to mature the whole supply chain, backward supply chain, processing technologies in terms of yields, in terms of quantity, and then in terms of extraction, you will have a larger contract through that. For example, if I tell you the number, according to Niti Aayog report, 50,000 metric tons of waste is being produced every year by India. So if you take the value of material, it is having 5,000 crores of material is being there in terms of recycling. If you are able to recycle that material, it is worth of 5,000 crores. Now, if you are able to recycle 50% of the total available, at least you have 2,500 crores of the worth of material which you will be extracting. So I want to say that definitely there is a material which is being lying down in our country. We need good technologies. We need a good volume. We need good collection centers, supply chain, which should be fed into the plant. So at the moment, I cannot commit, like we are into the development phase. I mean, Gauravji can also here, he can also support me. That today we all are working as a collaborative way. Every recycler is working as a collaborative way rather than the competition, right? And that's the time for 2-3 years more to tackle that scrap. Today there is today if you see 200 gigawatt hour is the annual demand. In 2030 it will be 600 gigawatt hour, which is 20x of it, which will be worth of 1 lakh metric tons per year, which is a very huge scrap. One recycler will not be able to handle it. And for that, definitely the standardization on the battery of reuse is very important. So if you see the US, if you see Europe, so it's called IEC 13330. In US, in Europe, they have coming with the policy of reuse, because reuse is a very important factor to make this whole happen in terms of the larger volume. But then again, you need automation and dismantling kind of the larger scale that is missing into the country, right? And then comes to the technology side. I mean, today hydrometallurgical is the promising technology which is happening in India. But other parts of the world, they are going for which is called microbial enzyme extraction technology, which is called bio extraction. Right. So we are into the stage still formalizing the things. Still, the technological way is very far ahead. I mean, it's maybe 5 to 10 years from now. So today we can only talk about maturity of the things. We need to take upon, I think, EPR, which comes in this enforceability. It will take some time to get on the execution phase. And in terms of reuse also, because there is no mandate or there is no guidelines for standardization of these reuse battery packs from ICAT or ARI. So ARAI ICAT certification need to be synced with the CPCB, synchronization in terms of selling of these products. So that is still missing into the phase. I mean, it's good because we are into the very primary stage. So I mean, in the future time, you will see that this development will happen on the stage where reusability, extraction, and the ESG perspective. Because today we are not taking the ESG perspective. 1 metric ton of lithium takes around 1900 gallons of water to extract 1 liter of 1 kg of lithium. In recycling, 80% of water is being reduced. So when you mine 1 kg of lithium from mine, 15 tons of carbon dioxide you emit, which is reduced by again 10% only consumption, which you are going to recycling. So I mean, these factors, ESG footprint, economic of the whole system, and the supply chain and maturity of technology, all 3 things will come together along with the government policies. So that will drive in the parallel way to make this happen on our execution stage. So that's why we point in the coming future how it will be enforcing based on the volume which is going to generate.
Wow. Thank you, Vikrant. That was great. Gaurav, any reflections on what Vikrant has just said? And I just want you to add one more element to it. In terms of, he talked about maturity and how all of this has to mature and all of this have to come together. How do we as the industry drive that? So reflections, and then how do we kind of as an industry come together and drive these things together?
So yeah, absolutely. Vikrant is spot on. I think recyclers today have to work together. It's a collective effort. We are at the forefront, right? This is the time where we can guide, we can talk, we can share with the government. These are the challenges that we are facing on the ground. The battery waste management rules are a very good set of rules by any global standard. Implementation of those is going to be a completely different ball game. It's not going to be easy. It is challenging. We're already seeing the challenges. As we said earlier, Youthika ji is kind enough to hear our problems. Of course, we still have many things we disagree on. We keep enforcing.
Mildly said, Gaurav.
I mean, I'm going to be very honest, and the portal numbers are, you can go on the portal and the numbers are there for you to see. Producers need their certificates, and our ecosystem is so young and so immature at this point that we cannot force any kind of restrictions. We need to let this industry, this ecosystem grow organically. The only way that happens is by keeping things simple: material in, material out, certificate issued. As long as you're doing it in the right way, without impacting the environment negatively, please issue the certificate. The producers are happy, things move on. Give it some time frame. Give it 2 years, 3 years for all of us to develop technology and grow organically. Right now, you with Europe or the US, with all the access to the capital markets, access to bank funding and huge government incentives and backing, none of them have been able to set up scale factories to go downstream with hydrometallurgy or any kind of next phase of recovery from black mass to battery grade salts. It takes time. It is extremely difficult. Hydrometallurgy is not child's play. So if I work in 6 months in a lab and say, yes, I've been able to do this, it's very different to extrapolate that and do that in the real world at volume. So all of us as recyclers, it's in our best interest to recover as much as possible and give back to our economy. That is the intention for each of us. But it all we're saying is that these things take time. I mean, if we look back and see at China and South Korea, they started this 15 years ago. That's why they've reached that level of maturity today. We are behind, much behind, but I don't doubt the talent in our country, and I don't doubt the fact that we are very, frugal and in our manufacturing, in industry. I completely support the fact that we'll get there, but it requires open borders. Let recyclers import batteries, let them import black mass, let them learn, let them look at material which is available globally for vehicles that have already been on the roads. We don't even have access to four-wheeler batteries in India today. How do we do R&D? How do we develop technology at mass scale? So these are the things that we say that if you look at any of the countries that progressed, they were able to develop global supply chains. And then with time, they could dictate what they wanted to leave the country or not leave the country. But we are not at that position to compare today.
Yeah, in fact, Gaurav, I think thanks for that. And when you're saying that, especially about importing material and doing the R&D, etc., I'm sure you fully understand that from a EPR perspective, that's not going to be delivering anything. But it is absolutely important for us to understand, do the R&D, create the technology at a mass scale, so that we are able to clean up the mess that will be in our country in a few years' time. Otherwise, we will not have the wherewithal to do it. Well, that's how it is, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we in a hurry to do things in the name of EPR, we are going to sacrifice technology. We are not going to be able to, have world-class technology.
Going back to Vikrant, I'm aware that you travel a fair bit and between, especially in the Asian areas, and you're seeing how they are going about the technologies there. What kind of things that you're seeing that are different? What are the innovations that you're seeing there? If you can kind of give us a quick heads up, and then I guess we are heading to close of time here, so we'll also close as we go forward quickly. And a bunch of questions here also. Yeah.
So battery is a very, very complex thing because it contains, if you see any waste management, batteries are more complex thing to recycle because it contains organic material, it contains inorganic materials. Lithium, cobalt, nickel, manganese is one of the part which accounts 45% of the total weightage inside the battery. Then there are secondary materials like copper, aluminum, plastic, electrolyte. I mean, now we are talking about solid state, but now, I mean, today's date, it is a very complex thing to recycle. And in terms of technologies, if you see from till 2010, the major technology was used, which was called pyrometallurgy, where you heat that material and then melt it out. But the major problem with that technology was that you are not able to extract the lithium out of it. You're only able to extract maybe 50-60% material out of it. Then the volume increased and people realized that there is something which can be increased. Then the second technology, which is more common today, which is called hydrometallurgical technology. So in today's technology in India, especially or China, this technology is based on chemicals. Like you deal with the chemicals to extract these materials like lithium, cobalt, nickel, manganese kind of materials. So the process is once the material is being fed inside the factory, first you take that material into a mechanical process to separate your cathode and anode materials. That is called black mass typically, which we export at the moment. And then at the second stage, it's called chemical unit, where you synthesize that material into a salts like lithium carbonate, manganese sulfate, or metal sulfates. This technology is definitely more suitable in terms of economics, in terms of the cost, in terms of yield. In today's date, ballpark, if you see, in China, they are about 95% of the total yield in terms of extraction. On lithium side, they are around 82% of extraction. Of the other parts of the world, still they are at 60-65% of lithium extraction. So China is even way higher in terms of the material yields, that means the efficiency of the process. India today, we are everyone onto the pilot scale. I say we are just grooming our technology to work on hydrometallurgical because that is most established technology. There are some future technologies also, which is called, you can say, bio-based enzymes. This is called bio-enzyme extraction technology. So in US and other countries, it is not applicable to battery recycling, but it is applicable to e-waste recycling. They are recovering the gold from bioenzyme. That means enzyme eat that gold or kind of other materials, critical materials or rare earth materials, and then they extract it. So this process is more greener. Hydrometallurgy process, if you see, still it is around 50% lower carbon footprints compared to pyrometallurgical. But still we are around 50 to 55% of carbon emissions into the process because you use chemicals. And the biggest problem with this hydrometallurgical process is on commercial scale, the byproduct which you are extracting in form of either liquid or solid. So that's still, maybe it's some company it will be less or more. That is something which we deal with. Maybe the whole world is dealing with it. Third technology, I mean, which is in China, they have started using it. That is called cathode to direct. That means you're directly converting your batteries into a new battery form. But for that, you need a particular one kind of chemistry, a volumetric thing. You cannot mix a lot of batteries, different chemistry of batteries together to build that. So still, I mean, India, it's maybe I say 8 to 9 years ahead. I mean, China is ahead than India. It will take 5 to 8 years more to develop the technology because it's associated with the supply chain. You need a uniform, regular, one kind of battery to feed it, to convert into the battery form. And then again, you need battery manufacturers also, or cell manufacturers also, which is now nil in India. So that ecosystem is needed to build that so that they can consume our material when we extract that. So I mean, today's time, as Gaurav said, that let's build organically. How we are trying to build it, because technology will come when enforceability will be there. On safety side, it is good. For yield side, it is good. For EPR, it's material in and out. And then for 1 or 2 years, just implement the policies and enforce something based on the ecosystem which is being developing. So that's something which will build the technologies for future, which will reduce the carbon footprint as well as the yield will be high. So for example, your mobile phones, you carry 7.5 grams of lithium, 6 grams of cobalt you are carrying in your mobile phone. So our job is to extract it, but intermediate from your using your phones to reach into the factory and extraction takes a lot of effort. So for effort, policies and everything will definitely takes time to develop.
Thank you, Vikrant. Thank you very much. In fact, when you talk about this and you're talking about one chemistry of batteries, I'm just finding how far-fetched it can be, because in the recent mobility expo that happened in the Pragati Maidan, Delhi, there was this stall which was there for the battery swapping, like they had battery swapping units, and how you can just go and you take out your battery pack, shove it into that charger and take another one, put it into yours and keep going. Now, the interesting thing about the stall, and I was laughing at it, was that there were 3 different types of battery swapping units, and each of them had different battery swaps in there, okay, which meant that there were so many different shapes, sizes, chemistries, God knows what else, and whatever inputs and outputs of current that they needed, that even that was, so if it is a battery swap, it's like you go to a petrol pump and you take petrol. I mean, okay, you have different grades of petrol is a different story, but primarily petrol. Here it is like, no, you can't go do that. Your nozzles are different. Your battery itself is chemistry. The petrol is different. It is something is pet, another one is a roll, I guess. So we are even at that level now to actually standardize shape, size, and then chemistry. Well, I don't know how far that is, but then let's hope it happens sometime. Thank you, Vikrant. Thank you very much. I'll just go around for some last comments from each of you before we take a quick look at questions. I can see that Gaurav has been trying to answer some of them as they're popping up, but then we'll see if there's anything that's been unanswered. Ms. Aggarwal, any thoughts from your side, the kind of help that the industry can help give you, as well as any last comments that you might have?
Yeah, actually, I'm not aware what role PCCs have to play in encouraging a lithium-ion battery in establishment of lithium-ion battery recyclers in our area. So how we can play a role in that context? So Yeah, I would like that some recyclers should approach us in some way. Then only we could help them to establish their recycling units in our area. That would be, I think, helpful. Plus, talking about Karo Sambhav have been associated with us in ensuring awareness, in doing awareness sessions, and they are quite aware what ground level problems we are facing. In fact, we had sessions with resident welfare associations, we had sessions with schools and colleges. So, what kind of e-waste we are collecting? The quantity is very less. What I'd say, yeah, problem is again the monetary thing that the mindset the people have. So encouraging them to um, go for a sound recycling of their end of the life
Life.
waste is the main thing. So the first step is to increase awareness sessions. So we can
Mhm.
only go that way. Then specifically for Chandigarh, we need to have approachable recycling facilities, whether battery recycling facilities and e-waste recycling facilities. Then only we can ask people that they deposit their end of the life products to these recycling facilities. Because if we do not have any facility in our area, we won't be able to encourage people to go for this dispose of their things in an environmentally sound manner. Then we should have collection points, not only one collection point, but uh, area specific collection points like north, south, east, west, whatever area, so that it is
Okay.
approachable to people in of different sectors. Like south sectors, there should be one collection point in the south area, one in the north area, in that way. Plus, yeah, I would like that Karo Sambhav should initiate that mobile collection van, that program again in Chandigarh, because I think that was very beneficial, and
Mhm.
it targeted the household e-waste collection system. So if we
Correct.
talk about, yeah,
Go ahead.
companies, if we talk about IT companies, so they directly come under the
Mhm.
purview of consent management. So we can ask them to dispose of their e-waste, or otherwise we can take some action against them. So that is possible. Then coming to common people. So we cannot take any action against them if they are not disposing it in environmentally sound manner. So they do not directly come under our purview. Then talking about bulk waste generators, they also do not come under our purview. So we do not have penalty provisions. What
Mhm.
action we can take against any bulk consumer or any dealer or whosoever that do not come under our direct purview. So I think this is something which is missing in the rules. So if they
Mhm.
want to implement rules in different states and UTs, they have to give us more power and to penalize whosoever is not following the rules. I think Mr. Singha was talking about to frame SOPs. So if you
Mhm.
frame SOPs, so problem is implementing those SOPs. If the person is not uh, uh, adopting those SOPs, who is going to take action against them? And what kind of action is to be taken against them to make sure that SOPs are being followed? Yeah, I think these are the main challenges that we also follow, because we are being asked, what are you doing in your specific territory or region to make sure that these rules are being followed? And then again, talking about extended producer responsibility.
Mhm.
Producers have to register with Central Pollution Control Board, not with State
Mhm.
Pollution Control Boards or State Pollution Control committees. So again, today also I was looking for the updation of the list on CPCB's website. So they have not updated the list whosoever has taken this EPR certification from them. Specifically talking about Chandigarh, and specifically talking about the uh, producers with respect to e-waste management. So since these things are not updated, we will not be able to take action against them. So if we do not know कि कौन है तो उसके against हम action भी कैसे ले? Then coming to recycler refurbishers, there are no recycling refurbishers in Chandigarh, so we cannot obviously take action against them. Then coming to this inventorization of waste.
Mhm.
So CPCB last time, CPCB formulated a methodology for doing e-waste inventorization. Right, that methodology was based on market survey method. Meaning
Mhm.
कि market में जितना आपका electronic items आ रहे हैं with
Mhm.
dealers, the specific electronic items have been given that end of their life, their time period in which that item will come to an end of its life. So the method was totally based on extrapolation that after a certain period of time, this item will come to its end of life and it will turn into e-waste. So the methodology was not appropriate and it was issued in the year 2016. And after that, they said that it has some lacunas and they need to incorporate the electronic items that are coming through online and the electronic items that are coming across borders. So that didn't take into consideration of those electronic items, and so the methodology needs to be revised. But till date, it hasn't been revised, and again, we have been given responsibility of doing the work of inventorization, and not specifically telling us what method we have to follow. I'm just talking about what responsibilities we have been given and what problems we are facing to complete those responsibilities.
Sure. And for the candid comments out here. In fact, on one side, I would say from the mobile drives that we do, maybe we will make sure that from starting once again when we start in April for the next financial year, we will kind of rebuild that program and specific to Chandigarh also, so that we are able to cover Chandigarh in a much better way and definitely explore how do we improve the collection points for collection systems in Chandigarh. From Karasabha perspective, definitely from an awareness and collection possibilities, we will try and do what best we can do. And we will work with you to improve on that. And in fact, on the other aspects that you talked about, I was just there reflecting on the point that Vikrant and Gaurav made in terms of the maturity of the system. And when we say maturity, it's also about the rules. It's also about how the integration between, say, the CPCB and the SPCBs or the SPCCs happen. And that also will have to go through, I guess, a phase of evolution for a few years. Gaurav, would you want to take that up a little bit and then also give us your closing thoughts on this?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Manu. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest challenge today remains what is happening with the portal? What are we doing with the transfer of credits? I think we are in mid-Feb, so producers are knocking down the door. Nobody seems to have.
They're trampling the door down. They're not knocking on the door.
Yeah, they were knocking. Now they're storming through the door. And the problem is nobody seems to have a clear answer, right? Neither do we, nor does CPCB. And as I said, our recommendation is keep things simple, allow recyclers to develop proper, legitimate technologies that are going to increase recovery, which is good for our country, but that takes time. Give us 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever you think is fair in our purview. But in the middle of the year, we have certain rules implemented. Now we're towards the end of the financial year, no clarity. It's difficult for anybody to implement rules in retro, going back and doing that. It's really tough. Also, the producers who have given us material already with the assumption that, we would be a recycler giving them certificates are now worried, rightfully so. It's reached a point where many producers we are talking to are saying, listen, we don't have clarity. Let's just go and pay whatever the compensation is. But Today, we don't even know what that number is. So, it's because due to these uncertainties, look, I completely sympathize with the CPCB as well. It's not an easy job. All I'm saying is that it requires time for everybody. This ecosystem is too young. So keep things simple. As long as you're recovering material, let them give EPR. Let's keep it simple. Let's do this. Whatever rules we set today are not going to be set in stone. Things are evolving so so fast in our in technology, in recoveries. We can always review it a year later, but let's keep it simple. Let's start. At this point, in forming the perfect environment, we are causing massive amount of confusion.
Yeah, Gaurav, I'll completely agree with you, and thanks for saying that. Today, if we have to talk some numbers, the portal talks about producer obligation. I'll stick to lithium-ion the side. It talks about 7,800 tons approximately. Let's say 8,000 tons. And if we go across to the recycler side and look at the credits available, we are talking a couple of hundred tons at this point in time, and we are sitting on 15th of February. So where is it all going to appear from? And is it all going to happen in the last 6 months? Yes, we Indians are super good in making things happen. But as long as we have to do it in the right manner, without any kind of jugaad in this business, and let me use that word, allow me to use it, then it is a tough ask at this point in time. Well, they have given a concession, as you will know, that they've said at least do the collection, etc., etc. So let us see where that leads us. But yes, it is a Herculean task, an uphill task at this point in time.
I mean, the numbers on the portal reflect such a small percentage of what the producer's requirements are that in the next 4 to 6 weeks to plug that gap seems almost impossible unless somebody pulls a rabbit out of their hat. But in my honest opinion, keep it simple. These numbers can be generated by recyclers provided there's no restrictions. As long as you have recovered material, you should be able to give a certificate and everybody is happy. And then year on year, we take a view, we can review it, and then with all stakeholders, we're not saying only listen to us, listen to the producers as well. Because what is going to happen now is if I look at the portal, I see 2 names, 3 names. The producers are going to be held hostage to those companies at those rates, and which is ultimately creating monopolies, which is not in the best interest for anybody in our ecosystem.
True. Let's hope for the best. Vikrant, any quick last words, please?
Yeah, I mean, from my side, I mean, technologies, I mean, sometimes, as Gaurav ji said, need time. Sometimes it also enforced recyclers to develop technologies more quicker. There is a way, I mean, once the enforceability comes, because of the enforceability, with due time, people try to develop that thing in a small period of time, but at least it should not be enforced that particular small amount of time. And we need time to develop it. Second, in time of the whole ecosystem, I mean, I want to say only one word, that if we want to really make this happen on an execution way, for an example, if we are tracking that we are going to generate 50,000 metric tons, so that means extraction need to be done on this volume, right? If we want to really make this happen, definitely the policies, the standards, and all these parallel activities need to be done in a synchronized way. Otherwise, there will be some lacking of intermediate, which will lack the whole backward supply chain to processing and then forward supply chain. That's something which need to be synced together to make this happen in a very larger way. And second is, which I want to say, we should not do any new thing. Just we need to see that how China has developed what technologies. If we can achieve the China level in today's time in India, it's more than enough. We don't have to do any new innovation technologies at today's time. I mean, if that is, so that should be the way to move forward.
Thank you, Vikrant. And I'm definitely not going to try summarize this 1.25 hour of discussion. We have touched upon collection to recycling technologies, challenges, as well as where we stand today, and of course, what are the potential innovations that are going to be. Before I hand it to Sreepriya for checking if there are any questions that can need to be addressed. I just want to thank all of you for taking the time out and sharing your time and as well as your knowledge, which with all of us today. There have been almost 100 people who attended the webinar today, and it's slowly dropping. I can see that people are moving across to their other commitments at 4:30, as is earlier said. And there were our producers joined this webinar, so it's important that everybody understands what this ecosystem is and where we are today and where it is heading. And in the process, I also want to thank our sponsors for the webinars: Apple, Dell Technologies, Canon, as well as Hewlett-Packard Enterprises for helping us run these awareness sessions and also make sure that it reaches the masses. Thank you very much. Over to you, Sreepriya. And thank you very much, Gaurav, Aggarwalji, and Vikrant for the time and knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sreepriya.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mani. And it was a phenomenal session. Thank you for moderating it so well. And thank you to all the panelists. Thank you, Rhythmji, Gaurav, and Vikrant, as well as Mr. Himadri, and of course, Ms. Youthika. Thankfully, Gaurav has been very proactive in answering all the questions, and some of the points you already covered for the rest of the questions. So thank you, Gaurav, for being a champion on our side. And with that, it brings us to the end of this session. So thank you once again, and stay tuned for the last episode, which will be in March. And I really want to thank all our audience for supporting us till date. It's because of you we are able to up the conversations with every episode. So thank you once again, and see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Much appreciated.